سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما صلاة تفتح لنا بها أبواب الرضا والتيسير وتغلق بها أبواب الشر والتعسير أنت مولانا فنعم المولى ونعم النصير اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما صلاة تفتح لنا بها أبواب الرضا والتيسير وتغلق بها أبواب الشر والتعسير أنت مولانا فنعم المولى ونعم النصير اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما صلاة تفتح لنا بها أبواب الرضا والتيسير وتغلق بها أبواب الشر والتعسير أنت مولانا فنعم المولى ونعم النصير. Bismillah. So we're looking at Surah Yasin, and we got up to verse 23. And we're in the middle of a conversation that Habib al-Najjar, radiallahu anhu ardah, he is having with his people when he came to protect and defend the three messengers who were about to be attacked, violently attacked by his people who threatened to kill them. And so these amazing words of his in defense of Tawheed, in defense of belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in defense of the prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relates to us and has immortalized these words, where he tells his people from verse 20, Ya qawm ittabi'u al-mursaleen, O my people, follow the messengers, ittabi'u man la yas'alukum ajran wa hum muhtadun, follow those who are not asking for any payments, and whilst they are rightly guided, وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. And why would I not worship the one who originated me? And to him alone you will all return. That's where we got to in the midst of the words of the great Habib al-Najjar, Sayyidina Habib al-Najjar, radiallahu anhu wa ardah. These words are truly inspired. These were inspired words by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who then preserves these words for eternity. And he now continues with his people, because they've asked him, do you believe in the religion of these people? And he answers them by confirming faith, وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ, conferring faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in the day of judgment, after having already confirmed faith in the messengers. But now he turns his attention towards the gods and the idols that they worship by saying to them, أَأَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِهِ آلِهَةً. Should I take other than him gods? Should I take other than him gods? This is what's termed in al-balagha, in ilm al-balagha, أَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِهِ آلِهَةً is what's termed as istifham inkari. It's a negating interrogation. And what that means, to simplify it, istifham inkari is where you would make a statement where you're posing a rhetorical question, but in reality you're actually telling the person what you're doing is wrong. Where you say to somebody, why would you do that? How could you do such a thing? So by saying that, you're not asking, it's a rhetorical question, you're not asking for an answer. In reality, you're negating what that person is doing. At the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, and it's used fairly regularly by Allah in the Quran. كَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ بِاللَّهِ. How could you deny Allah? That's istifham inkari. That's istifham inkari. Allah is not asking for an answer. It's a rhetorical question. Rejecting what's being done. So in reality, the istifham inkari here, then it's as though he's saying, as though Habib al-Najjar, he is saying, كيف أتخذ من دون الله آلهة لا تسمع ولا تنفع ولا تغني عن عابدها شيئا. How could I take other than him gods? أتخذ من دونه آلهة. How could I take other than gods who do not hear, nor benefit, nor help their worship in any way? And this comes from a man, Habib al-Najjar radiallahu anhu ardah, who'd worshipped their gods for over 70 years, asking to be healed from his sickness. So he knew what he was talking about. He'd experienced shirk. He'd experienced kufr. He saw nothing whatsoever. One occasion, the messengers, they call upon Allah, he heals them. How could I take other than him gods who do not hear, nor benefit, nor help their worship in any way? Meaning, I could never do it, so how could you do it as well? أَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِهِ آلِهَةً. And then, that's the first part. Then jumla shartiyya, then a conditional sentence. إِن يُرِدْنِ الرَّحْمَنُ بِضُرٍّ لَا تُغْنِ عَنِّي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا وَلَا يُنْقِذُونَ. If the All-Merciful intends any harm for me, their intercession will not avail me in anything. If Ar-Rahman intended to harm me, these gods, if they were to ask the Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, they could do nothing because they are absolutely powerless to do anything. What's worth noting here, we read this yesterday in Surah Al-Furqan, that the people of Antioch, they knew Ar-Rahman. They knew Ar-Rahman. They knew that God had the name Ar-Rahman, the All-Merciful, the one whose mercy covers everything in this world. So the people of Antioch had some remnants of Tawheed, of true faith. Whereas the Arabs in وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اسْجُدُوا لِلرَّحْمَنِ قَالُوا وَمَا الرَّحْمَنُ. They didn't know Ar-Rahman. They had no familiarity whatsoever with Ar-Rahman. When they're told to do sajda to Ar-Rahman, they said, what's Ar-Rahman? The Arabs in the peninsula had no understanding of the name Ar-Rahman. Whereas the people of Antioch, they had, so for example, we read this earlier, when they rejected the messenger, they said, وَمَا أَنزَلَ الرَّحْمَنُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. Ar-Rahman never revealed anything. And here he's talking to them through the name of God that they're familiar with. In yuridni ar-Rahmanu bi-dhurri. They recognize that there's an all-merciful Lord who provides for everything and anything. But he's now telling them that if Ar-Rahman, the all-merciful, intends any harm for me, these gods, their intercession, can't do anything for me whatsoever with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This doesn't mean that intercession is impossible. They believed ما نعبدهم إلا ليقربونا إلى الله زلفى. Like the mushrikeen, like the pagans in the peninsula, in the Arabian Peninsula, they said we only take these gods as intercessors that take us to the Almighty. So they had this idea that the gods that we worship are the intermediaries that will intercede for us with God. They were saying none of these stone idols, they can't intercede in any way whatsoever. This is not saying that intercession is rejected. Intercession exists for those that Allah subhanahu gives. But stone gods and idols, they can't do anything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way whatsoever. So Al-Habib al-Najjar radiallahu anhu arda is commenting upon the lowly, worthless nature of these idols. They're so lowly and worthless. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the worthless and lowly nature of idols that human hands themselves have crafted by saying, Ya ayyuhan nas duriba mathalun fastami'u lahu. A parable is given, O humanity, a parable is given, so pay attention. إن الذين اتخذوا من دون الله لن يخلقوا ذبابا ولو اجتمعوا له وإن يسلبهم الذباب شيء لا يستنقذوه منه. These gods that you worship, these stones that you worship along with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they can't create a fly. A fly, when you speak about al-mahana wal-haqara, being lowly and worthless, as a creature, a fly is the most lowly of all creatures. It's even called al-dhubab in Arabic. Al-dhubab لأنه كلما ذب آب. ذب آب. So whenever it's driven away, dhubba aba, it keeps on coming back. Hence it's called the dhubab. The dhubab kullama dhubba aba. Whenever you drive it away, it comes back. That's how lowly and worthless it is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says these gods, لَنْ يَخْلُقُوا ذُبَابًا. They couldn't even make a fly, even if all the gods came together. وَإِنْ يَسْلُبْهُ. And just how lowly these gods are, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, even a lowly creature like a fly, إِنْ يَسْلُبْهُمُ الذُّبَابُ شَيْئًا. If you put anything in front of these gods, and that fly came and took it away, these gods couldn't لَا يَسْتَنْقِذُوهُ شَيْئًا. They couldn't do anything. If a fly came and took something that was put in front of the gods couldn't do anything. That's as lowly and worthless that even a fly has more power than the gods that they worship. They're so lowly and worthless. يَحَوِثُ لَوْ أَرَادَ اللَّهُ. You know what's ajib about all of this? Like, alhamdulillah, because we're raised, what's so strange about it is that we're raised in households of belief. So the idea of idolatry and pagan worshiping God is just something so completely alien that you think, like, how can you even imagine such a thing? But there are people who are raised in that. There are people who are raised in that where that's absolutely normal. So when we think about the fly, for them, that would never cross their mind to think of such a thing. And it's even mentioned as a Sahabi. His sons had become Muslim and they wanted to show to him that the gods that they worship in their homes, that they're worthless. So one night, while he's asleep, the sons, they just took the idol that was in the house and they just put it out in a rubbish dump nearby. And when he wakes up, he's panicking, like, who stole my God? Which itself should have raised the question, well, who stole my God? And eventually finds in the rubbish dump. And he's angry with his sons because he's realized what they've done. But it dawns upon him because during the night a fox had come and urinated on the God. And at that moment, the penny dropped with him. And he says, أَرَبٌ يَبُولُ الثَّعْلَبُ عَلَيْهِ. How can it be a God when a fox can come and urinate, over it? So for lillahi alhamd, alhamdulillah, that we've been raised in households where shirk is such an alien concept, because it's وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. Most of humanity is still in shirk. And most of them will only believe in Allah and at the same time worship God. And let's never forget, like Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma said, the worst type of shirk is to say that Allah is one of three. Ibn Abbas stated the worst type of shirk, all good with Christianity because they're monotheists. The Trinitarians are not monotheists, they're mushrikeen. So even though Allah has given them an honor and respect because they have confirmed revelation, they had it. But Ibn Abbas said it's the worst type of shirk to say that Allah is one of three. So أَأَتَّخِذُ إِنْ يُرِدْنِي الرَّحْمَنُ بِضُرٍّ. They're so lowly and worthless. That had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent upon me any type of affliction or harm, and were they to intercede for me, their intercession would not benefit, and they would not. وَلَا يُنْقِذُونَ. Just a little note here, there's a kasra at the end. The asl of that is وَلَا يُنْقِذُونِي, with the ya at the end. But this is the tanasub ru'us al-ay, so that the verses match at the ending, so it's arid lis-sukun, so Allah drops the ya. So وَلَا يُنْقِذُونِي إِنِّي آمَنْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ فَاسْمَعُونِي. The asl of all of it is with the ya, but the ya is omitted just so that they're all ending with the same noon at the end, so it matches that there's a rhythm within the ending of the verse. And you find a lot of that within the Quran. وَلَا يُنْقِذُونِي. And they would not be able to save me from the punishment. So how then is it even possible when they're stones who do not hear nor benefit, nor intercede? وَلَا يُنْقِذُونِي. Nor could they rescue me, meaning they are incapable of saving me from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Ajiba similarly comments upon these verses by stating that Habib al-Najjar radiallahu anhu ardah, he said to them, أَأَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِهِ آلِهَةً. Should I take other than him gods? Aliha here meaning al-asna, meaning the idols. إِن يُرِدْنِ الرَّحْمَنُ بِضُرٍّ. If the All-Merciful intends any harm for me, which he highlights now, it's a condition. And that verse could be read incorrectly. أَأَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِهِ آلِهَةً. That's the end of the statement. Should I take other than him gods? Rhetorical question, rejecting what they do. But at the end of that, that's a full stop. Then he continues, إِن يُرِدْنَ الرَّحْمَنُ بِضُرٍّ لَا تُغْنِ عَنِّي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا وَلَا يُنْقِذُونَ. If the All-Merciful intends any harm for me, that's the condition. The response, جواب الشرط, the response to the condition, لا تُغْنِ عَنِّي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا. And what indicates that that's the response, just a bit of i'rab, just a bit of grammar here, that the in is the adat al-shart, it's the tool. Yuridn ar-Rahman. That's the condition. La tughni. The original statement should be La tughni with the ya. But the ya has been omitted because of the in. It's majzoom bihadf al-ya. So that indicates that La tughni is the response to the condition. لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. If the All-Merciful intends any harm for me, or their intercession will not avail me in anything, nor could they rescue me from harm by giving me victory and support to me. Habib al-Najjar radiallahu anhu arda continues to speak to the mob who tried to attack the prophets, by then saying, Inni idhan lafi dalalim mubin. He says this in the most emphatic of all manners. He uses the inna. He uses the lam at-ta'keed. Inni idhan lafi dalalim mubin. He has two emphases within the indeed and certainly. Indeed, then I would certainly be in clear misguidance. Meaning, verily, إني إن عبدت غير الله واتخذت الأصنام آلهة لفي خسران ظاهر جلي. If I worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and took the idols as God, I would be in clear loss. Ibn Ajib similarly comments by saying, Inni idhan, indeed then, meaning, if I took a God other than him, idhan lafi dalalim mubin, I would certainly be in clear misguidance, meaning in clear error, which would not be hidden from any intelligent person. So he is commenting upon the term clear, dalalim mubin, that the clarity of the misguidance, anybody who used any rational thought would see how misguided shirk is. At that point, now, it's clear to all of those listening that he's a believer, that he's rejected the gods of their forefathers and he's a believer. So after advising them and reminding them up until this point, he hasn't explicitly stated up until this point that he's a believer, but now he declares a shahada. Or he's already taken a shahada before. Now he tells them publicly that he's a believer in the one God. So now he says, Inni amantu bi rabbikum fasma'uni. But even in the shahada, this is not the shahada, he's already believed before. This is where he's gone public with his shahada. But look at the wording here, because it's all about his people. He says, I have believed in your Lord. In your Lord. He's not Inni amantu bi rabbi. He's telling them you should believe him because he's your Lord, whether you like it or not. He's your Lord. Even if you reject him, he's still your Lord. Whether you believe him or not, he's still your Lord. Inni amantu bi rabbikum. So the da'iyah, as we said at the beginning and yesterday, the words of Habib al-Najjar have been preserved eternally by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because these have been inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He, by agreement, he's not a Nabi. He's not a prophet by agreement. He's waliyun min al-awliya. He's one of the greatest. And when we speak about awliya, all of the awliya that we speak about, the vast majority, we can't be absolutely certain as to their status. But Habib al-Najjar, we have certainty of his status. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us his status. So without any doubt whatsoever, Habib al-Najjar is waliyun min awliya illah. He's one of the true people of Allah. He's from the Siddiqeen. He's from the highest of the saints. And so what we're seeing are words inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu inspires him that when he goes public with his shahada, just reminds them, I believe in your Lord, so you should believe in your Lord too. And so when you tell people about your faith, it's your Lord. It's not just my Lord. It's not the God of Muslims. It's the God of all. It's the God of all of humanity. Indeed, I have believed in your Lord, so hear me. This means, verily, I believe in your Lord who created you. And the term there, Rabb, is also important. Rabb is important because there's a distinction between Ar-Rabb wal-Ilah. Al-Ilah, God, is the one who's worshipped. It's the one who's worshipped. God, the deity, is the one who's worshipped. Whereas Rabb is something more than that. The Lord is the creator, the originator, the provider, the sustainer. That's the concept of that Rabb. And so, yes, he's your God, but you're not worshipping. But whether you worship him or not, he's going to be your Lord because he created you. He provides from nothing. He originated you from nothingness. He provides for you and he sustains you. So he's your Lord, whether you like him or not. You may not take him as your God, but he's your Lord, whether you like him or not. Verily, I have believed in your Lord who created you. So listen to my words. Isma'uni, fasma'uni. Listen to me. And listen to me means Sami'a Allah, qabila. Sami'a doesn't just mean listen, it means accept what I say. When you say in your prayer, Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, qabila Allahu liman hamida. Allah listens means Allah hears the one who praises him and accepts the one who praises him. So now he's saying to them, Fasma'uni, listen to my words and act upon my advice by accepting what I'm saying. Because what I'm saying for you and not for myself. Then they attacked him and then they killed him. After all of that, the most sincere, genuine advice that was given, the Mufassirun, the vast majority of the Imams, they hold a view. What's interesting here, Allah never said that they killed him. فَاسْمَعُونَ قِيلَ ادْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ. And most of the Mufassirin stated, because Allah so hated the act that they did, he didn't mention the act, he goes straight into Jannah. And it's even said by many Mufassirin that when the first blow landed upon him, he never felt a thing because his soul had gone straight into Jannah. He never felt any pain at that moment, although, and in fact, because he's a shaheed, he's a martyr. He was a martyr. He said that's exactly what happens to shuhada al-harb. The mujahideen who kill in the battlefield, they don't feel any pain at the moment that they're killed. And Habib al-Najjar was the same. Allah never mentioned. And Ibn Ajib, interestingly, he even quotes a view that's held by one or two, like Al-Hasan al-Basri, said that he never actually died. He was taken up into the heavens and he will die when the world comes to an end. So on the view of some, although it's a minority view, and the reason why they said that, because Allah never said that he was killed. He just said that he went into Jannah. So there's even a view that states he never died, and that he was given longevity and he will die when the world comes to an end. So the point there is to note, when he gave those last words of his last words was, listen to me. Then after that, قِيلَ ادْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ. It said, enter into Jannah. However, most of the Mufassirin said, no, they did kill him. And the reports do indicate that they did kill him. The people killed him. So he said, when he said to them and advised them and announced his faith, as one body they assaulted him and killed him. He did not have anyone to stop their harm. Somebody yesterday asked the question, was he the only believer from the people of Antioch? And I was looking into that, and it does seem to be that he was the only one who accepted the message of the messengers. Inshallah ta'ala, I'll look into it more. But it does seem to be the case that he was the only one from the people who believed, which is why Imam al-Sabuni then states that the Mufassirin then said he did not have anyone to stop their harm. The whole of the city rejected, and what also indicates that is that Allah destroyed the whole of the city. Without any exception, the whole of that city was destroyed. He then quotes Al-Qurtubi. Al-Qurtubi states, وَثَبُوا عَلَيْهِ فَوَطِئُوهُ بِأَقْدَامِهِمْ حَتَّى مَاتٍ. They assaulted him and trampled on him with their feet until he died. The most horrific of all deaths. It's also said they pelted him with stones until he died. So the exact way that he was killed by them is not, these are all reports. We don't have these from our traditions. These are traditions of the Mufassirin. They glean from biblical traditions. إسرائيليات لا تصدقوا أهل الكتاب ولا تكذبوهم. Don't believe them, don't deny them. But the general view is that he was killed. Ibn Ajiba confirms this. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. Listen to my faith. Listen to my faith so that you can all be witnesses for me on the day of rising. فقتله قومه. His people then killed him. Then, as we mentioned, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes straight into Jannah, takes us straight into Jannah. قِيلَ ادْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ. It was said, enter paradise. And when he's in Jannah, he carries on speaking about his people. قَالَ يَا لَيْتَ قَوْمِي يَعْلَمُونَ. And that's why it's said about him, that he's ansah الناس. He was the most sincere of all people in his love for his people to accept faith. Because they said about him, نَصَحَ قَوْمَهُ حَيًّا وَمَيِّتًا. It was said that he was sincere in his advice to his people whilst he was alive and when he died. Like even inside of Jannah, what's his, يَا لَيْتَ قَوْمِي يَعْلَمُونَ. If only my people could know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done for me. He stood in front of them, he's sincerely telling them to believe. Now he's in Jannah, he's wishing and hoping, if only they knew what I'm going through now, the reward that I'm receiving, so that they would also believe. He was the most sincere of all of people of da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All he was concerned about, the salvation of his people. This means when he died, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, enter paradise with the righteous martyrs as a reward for your true faith and your success through martyrdom. As we mentioned already, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he mentioned, or similar statement to what was mentioned before, they trampled him with their feet such that his intestines came out from his rear. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, Udkhulul Jannah. Enter into Jannah, and he entered therein where he received provision. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed from him the pain, sorrow, and exhaustion of this world. When it says receive provision, fihi yurzaq, as a martyr, because the point also to note here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is described him as a shaheed, as a martyr, because it's only martyrs that go straight into Jannah. Everybody else is in the barzakh, inside their grave. He's not in barzakh, he's in Jannah. And that's the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to the martyr who dies for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he places him in Jannah directly. Nobody goes into Jannah directly except for the shuhada. عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ, where they're receiving from their Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala all the provision. And that's what's referred to where he receives provision, the provision of the martyrs. عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. They're receiving all of the pleasures of Jannah. The souls, they fly around. This is related in the context of the martyrs of Uhud in Surah Ali Imran. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Do not imagine that those who are being killed for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are dead. They're alive with their Lord receiving provision. It is reported, authentic reports state, that when the martyrs of Uhud, the 70 martyrs of Uhud were killed, their souls are flying around in Jannah, drinking from the rivers of Jannah, and flying their souls and flying up and eating fruits from the fruits of the trees of Jannah, and then going to the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and resting inside of qanadil, inside of lanterns hanging from beneath the throne. And then the souls of the martyrs of Uhud say to each other, If only we could inform of our brothers who survived on earth of what we're receiving. Who would tell them what we're receiving? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'll tell them. And then he revealed the verses, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. They received their provision. All of the pleasures that the people of Jannah receive, the souls of the martyrs receive it, whilst this world is still going on. Only the souls of the martyrs, and that's what Habib al-Najjar was experiencing. بِمَا غَفَرَ لِي رَبِّي وَجَعَلَنِي مِنَ الْمُكْرَمِينَ. Because he forgave me and he made me from those who are honored. He receives his provision, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed from him all the pain, sorrow, and exhaustion of this world. Then Ibn Ajiba comments, and one of the amazing things when you study the Quran is, and we've already come across one or two examples of this, like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even chooses to miss out a letter, to miss out. He drops certain things that otherwise would be obvious for specific wisdoms. We mentioned, for example, in an earlier verse, فَعَزَّزْنَا بِثَالِث. He did not say فَعَزَّزْنَاهُمَا بِثَالِث. He said فَعَزَّزْنَا بِثَالِث. We strengthened with two. He dropped the huma because the huma is not important. It's the thalith that's important. So Allah wants us to focus, and He's done something similar here. Normal language, you would say, قِيلَ لَهُ ادْخُلُ الْجَنَّةِ. It was said to him, enter into Jannah. Allah did not say lahu. He did not say it to him. Because here, the words that we mentioned after udkhul al-jannah, qala ya layta qawmi ya'lamun, and so on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has related these words because they're the important words. The important thing is not who it's said to. We know who it's said to. We know He's talking about Habib al-Najjar. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to add anything in that's not needed. If He subhanahu wa ta'ala says qila lahu now is itnab, it's extra where there's no need for it, where there was no need for it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want us to focus upon, because we know He's speaking about Sayyidina Habib al-Najjar. What's He wants us to focus upon? That he went straight into Jannah, and that he's received all the forgiveness and the grace of his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's no qila lahu udkhulul jannah, qila udkhulul jannah. Because these words were mentioned to explain the statement and not to explain to whom it was said, because who it said is known. There's no need to say that, and it becomes extra without anything. Then Ibn Ajiba introduces a point of Aqidah. And even though it's just one line, and he only mentions it in passing, but there's a significant point in Aqidah. The Mu'tazila, they held a view, Al-Jannah wal-Nar ghayr makhluqatayn al-an. They're not created yet. They will be created on the Day of Judgment. There is no paradise, there is no hellfire now on the view of the Mu'tazila. They said, they held a view that it's created in the next world. There are many ayat in the Quran that disproves them, although they have explanations for them. أُعِدَّتْ لِلْكَافِرِينَ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. When Allah speaks regularly about paradise and hellfire, He says it's been prepared for the believers. It's been prepared, it's already made, it's already created. So here Ibn Ajib is confirming this point. The belief of Ahl Sunnah, paradise and hellfire have been created now. They're already created. They're not going to be created on the Day of Judgment. And a proof for that, Habib al-Najjar has entered in. He's already there. That's not going to happen on the... Allah is not speaking about the Day of Judgment. He's speaking about now. He's speaking about while His people are still on earth. So He said, the story of Habib al-Najjar is a further proof that paradise has already been created. Khilafan lil-Mu'tazila, as against the view of the Mu'tazila. And as we mentioned earlier, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not explicitly state, He did not explicitly state that He died, and that's why He quotes the view of Al-Hasan al-Basri. And Al-Hasan al-Basri is not somebody insignificant. He's according to some of the greatest of the second generation, the greatest of the Tabi'een. So his view is not insignificant. And he said, when his people, لَمَّا أَرَادَ الْقَوْمِ, when the people intended to kill him, رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ فَهُوَ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. Allah subhanahu raised him up so that he's in paradise. Al-Baghawi in his Tafsir quotes this, i.e. the same as Isa ibn Maryam. The same as Isa ibn Maryam. بَلْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. In fact, Allah took him up to himself. And that's not impossible. If it happens to a Nabi, it can happen to a Wali. It happened to Isa ibn Maryam, it can happen. However, the overwhelming view of the Mufassirin is that he was killed and he went directly into paradise. But we have this view that he will die a death when the heavens and the earth comes to an end, at the end times of humanity. Habib al-Najjar will remain alive up until that point. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll finish off this verse and continue the remainder of the discussion around Habib al-Najjar. And then the third phase within this, because we have three phases within the story. We have the messenger sent, then we have Habib al-Najjar coming to defend and being killed, and then we have Allah sending Jibreel alayhi salam to destroy them. So that's the remaining part of the story of the people of Antioch, is the destruction of the people, which inshallah ta'ala we'll look at tomorrow, bi'ithnillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Are there any questions? No questions, tamam. اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة. اللهم ذكرنا منه ما نسينا وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين آمين. جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله. جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله. جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.